Oh man, so we've got Algorand cruising, we've got COTI entering a potential dip buy area, and Bitcoin is forming a pattern which I want to show you. Let's take a look at what's going on in the crypto market. So let's start off with Algorand. So you remember we saw that Algorand was creating this downward wedge, and we've been following this for a couple of days now at the end of last week. And I made a video yesterday just reiterating the fact that we're heading towards our $2.05 target, and we've met that target exactly as predicted, as somebody in the crypto universe would say. Exactly. As you can see, the top of the wedge there was at $2.05. We've reached that, so you guys can take profit from that point, or take some of your position off if you're short trading this. If you're long like me, it doesn't really make a difference. But if you're trading this for the short term, then you've met your first target here of the top of the wedge. And normally what you do is you lighten your position, normally half your position, let's say, and you let the rest ride. Okay, so that's where you'd be taking your profits. Now, you also remember I mentioned the bigger target is sitting at $2.24. And now we can really start to head towards that. Obviously, we're going to get a rejection here, which is what we've got here on the 4-hourly candle, this red candle, because we got to $2.05. And now you're going to get a bit of sell pressure at the first target, because a lot of traders will be doing the exact same thing, right? They'll be waiting for it to hit the target, and they'll be taking some of their position off. So it's going to cool down a little bit. And then I wouldn't be surprised if we saw another run up to the full target here at $2.24 on Algorand. So guys, if you just traded this with me here, you would have made a handsome, just put that there, you would have made 30% on your Algorand right now. Okay, just as a short-term trade, even if you didn't believe in it in the long term, just as a trade there based on this wedge, we mentioned here when it broke out, even if you caught it after the breakout, because you didn't want to get in before, you would have made 20% at the breakout. Okay, and we've still got potential for another. If you caught it at the breakout here and you ride it to $2.24, you've got 29% here at the top target. Okay, so let's see if that carries on playing out. I mean, Algorand's going from strength to strength. I mean, the RSI is a little bit high and we want a bit more volume coming in. But again, I expect this to cool off now, let the RSI cool down, and then another run. So don't be surprised if this kind of comes down, even down to here, even $1.79, but I think it'll be less, and then head back higher for Algorand. So great news on Algorand. Congrats for those who traded that, and even for the long-term holders, congrats. Like I said, we've created a floor at this $1.64 mark, so Algorand now has its new floor. We're at $1.64, and that's Algorand. And remember, this is really important. Don't fall for the highs. Everybody focuses on the $2.50. We touched $2.50, right? So if you're selling, that matters. But if you're not selling, it's the floors that matters. What floors have we created? And here we've created a $1.64 floor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. No, we're not falling below it. That's Algorand's price right now. The buyers are coming into the market and saying we're protecting that level. So it really gives you some confidence, because it now means that it will have to be something really drastic for your Algorand to fall below $1.64, right? It'd have to be a really big market correction or something catastrophic almost. But on the top side, you don't have a $2.55 Algorand just because it touched $2.55 once, right? It can give you confidence that we can get to that level because we've set a precedence, but that's not the floor for the price of Algorand. So I think that's one of the misnomers a lot of newer investors will have. Anyway, not to get into that, let me move on to Bitcoin now, because I've spotted a pattern in the Bitcoin chart that I think could play out. Let me zoom out to the daily. And what we can see here, let's just kind of recap kind of what happened here. So in the video yesterday, you will see that I mentioned we need to get through this 47,850 mark. Let's see if we can zoom in. There we go. So you've got to excuse my charts. I think you know by now that these get pretty messy with all my drawings. But we've got this yellow line here at 47,850. We got our breakout and we couldn't break this level here, right? But now what we can see happening is we tried to break here. And whilst we were still in the wedge, we couldn't. It acted like a strong resistance. And again, it's acting like strong resistance. So almost what I can see happening now is us falling back down. And you remember I mentioned if we fall back down, we can test this 43 level. Well, what would happen is if we came down and tested this 43 level, what we then have is we would have a, let me get the brush. We would then have a head and shoulders pattern, right? With the neckline at 47.50, you'll be going once, down, create another head, and there you go. You get your head and shoulders pattern. So that's something I want to watch out for now. And just from a common sense point of view, that buyers and sellers, we got rejected here now again. We're going to go down to the next level, and the buyers are going to buy back here because the buyers didn't let it fall below 41,000. They came in before at this kind of 43,000 mark, so we'd expect them to come in again, and that will create you a head and shoulders pattern, which could give you, which we won't monitor the price movement that could have now. If we see that start to dip down, we'll set up the head and shoulders, we'll draw it with the neckline there. Actually, let's just do that. So if you imagine your measured move, just very roughly, and you put it at a point of a breakout, which we're miles away from, but just kind of doing this nice and early just to give us some idea. We won't hold ourselves to this, but you can then see Bitcoin pushing well above into the 56,000 mark, right? So that's kind of the plus side. I'll just delete that now because I've not done that accurately, but that's the upside of what we could see from a head and shoulder pattern if it plays it out. I'm just drawing this nice and early. Normally you want to kind of see it come down, but I think if we put it on the radar, then we can watch out for it. Do we get a dip down here? Does it curl around and go test the 47,850 mark with more strength? That would be 1, 2, and then our third attempt can break it through. The third one's always the lucky one, so hopefully that's what can play out on Bitcoin. But overall, looking strong, holding the 47,000 mark, not breaking down, but just obviously struggling at that high resistance mark to make any dent really in that 47,850. I called it early. As soon as this breakout happened, I said it's not going to be easy to break this resistance level. It's a difficult resistance level, and then it doesn't get easier from there because we've got to break the 50,000 mark as well. If we did create a head and shoulders pattern, we could break both levels in one fell swoop, and that would be awesome. But we're still a couple of steps away from that happening. So don't be surprised if we get a dip down, is what I'm saying right now. Let's take a look at ADA. Again, not moving much just yet. ADA's kind of is having a tricky time right now, and I think it's going to for a little while. So we've had a kind of rejection off the $2.20 mark. Let's go in the 4-hourly. Let's take a look at ADA. And we can see here, yeah, it got rejected at this $2.26 and kind of hovering between $2.26 and $2.20. It's kind of just channeling along right now. Nothing exciting for Cardano going on. Probably needs a few catalysts to the upside for it to push on. But I think Cardano is a weird one because you've got this really strong community of buyers like myself who believe in the project, who, you know, I wouldn't sell my Cardano. I believe in it for such a long time. That it's a project built on fundamentals, right? But then you're getting this other community which really hates on Cardano and bags on Cardano because they've always been of the, you know, the almost the Ethereum protectors who say, you know, Cardano's rubbish, you know, it has no legs, you can't do anything on Cardano, but you clearly can now. And over 200 dApps have been, smart contracts have been built on Cardano, and more probably by now. And it's just building from strength to strength. I'm surprised it's not moving a bit more, but it's more opportunity for us to buy this dip. I mean, we've already seen Cardano at $3. Please don't be one of those people that when this runs to $3, you start FOMOing in, because I've made it so clear. Cardano is a solid project. It's had a massive tear up, so naturally this is a bit of a cooling off. I mean, if you look at from this to let's do our fib. So if we do our Fibonacci retracement from swing low to swing high, you can see, yeah, it's naturally going to have a calling off. It can even call off, so you can see there, it's bounced off quite perfectly, really. We're not far off the 618 level on the Fibonacci calling off. So it's held some strength. It's not retraced as much as it could. It could retrace a bit more if it needed to, but we got that bounce off the $1.87 mark, and it seems to be holding strength there. So what would we want to see from Cardano? We just kind of need it to go from strength to strength, really. It needs to break above the $2.20 mark and just quickly get above $2.40 in order to keep some momentum. But right now it's looking a bit bearish on Cardano. Well, sideways. I wouldn't say there's necessarily any downward pressure on Cardano right now, but naturally, if you're not moving up, there's a fear that you can move down. Right, let's move on to COTI. What's happening with our friends over at COTI? So COTI is an interesting one. Let me just start with the daily, just to recap of where we were at. So just a reminder, guys, we were on this cup and handle pattern. So we had a cup, we had a handle. This handle is obviously a downward wedge. So we got the breakout from the downward wedge. We met the target at 57 cents on COTI. But the target from your cup gives you a target all the way up at 81. But we're nowhere near the 81 mark, and we've got rejected by this ceiling at 66. Let me switch over to the 4-hourly. You can see it a bit more clearly. You know, we mentioned in our last few videos, we keep getting rejected by this level at the top. It was rejected once, rejected almost second time, and a third time. But now we've entered a downward wedge. Okay, let me switch over to the hourly. Let's look at this wedge a bit more clearly. So what we can see is we've entered this downward channel. Okay, so we got rejected this last time here. Okay, on the 29th of September, and we've just entered this downward channel all the way down here on on COTI. On the hourly, we're clearly bullish. We're below this EMA ribbon. We've lost our 200 EMA as well, the teal color one here. And we're heading down towards our next kind of support level at 49 cents. But for me, this is my buy zone. So I've put it in this rectangle here. For me, as COTI starts to come down, I'm nibbling and I want to pick up some more in this rectangle here. I feel like we'll get a good bounce from this 49 level mark and COTI's going to head higher. I mean, from a fundamental point of view, I'm happy buying me some more COTI. I'm actually quite happy with this dip because I thought this would just tear straight through 66 mark. So for me, picking up COTI at this level, in anywhere in this rectangle, is a good pickup for me on COTI. Okay, so anywhere between 53 and the resistance level at 49, between 49 and 53, I'm happy picking me up some more more COTI because I think this can move from strength to strength. I think we're calling off, get a good bounce ahead, and this time break this 66 mark with more strength. Let's look at Luna. So Luna's on an absolute tear. If you're in Luna, again, these layer one plays are absolutely killing it. I've been saying this for a while, guys. I mean, Luna, if you bought it in these dips here, just on 30th of September, guys, and not long ago, this hourly chart, you would have made 40% on your money. Okay, so in just a few days. So Luna is on an absolute tear, 8% up today as well so far. And it's just going from strength to strength. Luna's definitely one. Let's just go into the daily chart. Yeah, it's just on absolute tear right now. And the RSI has even got some more room. So the RSI is not even at like breakneck. It's just got some momentum in it and it's moving. We know the Columbus upgrade has had an impact on this and it's moving with good strength. And what I like about this is it is almost parabolic, but it's not stupid, right? It's not crazy. It's kind of cooling off in its own moments and building momentum. So we've had a couple of strong days, couple of weaker days, couple of strong days, couple of weaker days, strong day there, cooling off, strong days, cooling off. That's what I want to see. I don't want to just see green candle, green candle, green candle. You know, that's less sustainable. This is a nice sustainable growth chart for an altcoin, and Luna is looking really strong right now. Solana sitting at $166 right now. Just had a little cooling off of that candle. We've got a little bit of rejection at this mark here, which is interesting because it had a rejection at the 170 mark before. This time it's got a rejection at 173. Wonder how much this is going to call off. Let's take a look at the 4-hourly, where we should be able to see that rejection a bit clearer. There you go. So that's your first rejection, and now you're getting a second rejection. Hopefully we can just get a test on the EMA ribbon and then head higher. I think that's kind of our best case scenario. If we come in just to touch this EMA ribbon and get a green candle upwards on this 4-hourly to go back and test this 190 mark. And that's the next level for Solana. It really needs to go back to 190. And by the way, I've mentioned this a few times, guys. I'm not surprised with what's happening with Solana right now. This is nothing. This is just a slight cooling off. And look at that rebound. I mean, this is amazing from Solana, really. I mean, after that tear up, I wouldn't have been surprised if we had more of a cooling off, even back down to this 200 EMA. I mean, when you go from 2830s, where I was picking them up here, all the way up to 216 there, a call off even in the 80, 90 range is fine. But the fact that it held a floor again at 125 is amazing for Solana long-term investors. For short-term, they don't like this, right? Because they would have FOMO'd in here, bought at 216, and now they were down to 125. So the only people complaining right now are those who are buying Solana at 190, 200, 215, right? Naturally, you're going to be in the red because you bought at the top. You FOMO'd in. You didn't wait for a dip. The smart people would have seen that running up and waited for this moment, because you always get this dip here. And if you bought here at 125, you're happy. You're already up because you bought at 125 and it's now sitting at 166, 170, 175, and you're not complaining. So the people who want this to run really quickly and are panicking are the ones who bought at this point here. Don't be that person, please. So it ran up, nice calling off. We got the floor at 125 and now we can build from here. Hopefully we can create another floor at 170 to say, look, Solana, we're at 170, let's build from here now. And it will go from strength to strength. I think Solana's got so many fundamental things going for it. They've got the marketing. They've got a lot of attention right now. I think it was listed on one of Grayscale's funds, which allows institutions to start buying in on Solana. A lot of dApps are being built on Solana. I mean, the total value locked. I mean, let's take a look at this. I had this up somewhere. No, I don't have it up. So the total value locked on Solana is at about 11 billion already in the recent months, and that's where Ethereum was in November last year. So Ethereum's gone from 11 billion to about 100 billion roughly and Solana is thereabouts. Solana is where Ethereum was just in November time, so it's only, it's not far behind at all. And Solana's got a massive growth rate ahead of it, and it doesn't need to beat Ethereum. This is not a competition. There can be multiple layer ones, and that's absolutely fine, right? There's no issue with having multiple layer one solutions. It's not a be or end all that there has to be Ethereum and nothing else. So yeah, a lot of potential for Solana. So there you go, guys. Bitcoin's creating its head and shoulders pattern, it seems. Let's go back out to the daily chart. You've got your head and shoulders kind of coming up for Bitcoin, potentially. If not, if we just tear to the upside, happy days for me as well. No problem at all. I'd like to see us break this 47,850 mark. But if we do come to the downside, then potentially a bit of a head and shoulders pattern here. Algorand, absolute tear, doing really well. Come out of this, hit our target on the downward wedge, and try aiming now for our second target of this, getting a little bit of rejection here on the, let's take a check on the hourly candles. Yeah, just this little touch calling off onto the EMA ribbon, which is absolutely fine. We've had that there, we had that there. There's no issue with that. We want to see a bounce up and head higher now for Algorand. COTI, we mentioned, is in this downward channel. I'm looking for a few dip buys on COTI. Happy for this to call off because I think the market is missing out on COTI right now. So I'm happy for this to get cheaper and for me to build out my cost basis a bit better. Luna is on an absolute tear. So layer one, again, the theme of the day. Layer one solutions are doing really well. Just looking down the numbers here, you've got Matic down 5%, Link down 5%, Dot down 5%. BNB's not moved in a while. I mean, BNB and Doge fall into my category of plays which just haven't moved, but their potential of moving quickly. So I'll put those in a category where we can't ignore those guys. Uniswap is still kind of down. I think they're weighing on the fact that, look, Gary Gensler and his attack at these guys and trying to regulate them is naturally going to weigh on some of these DeFi plays. But overall, market looking good. Happy days now that Bitcoin got its breakout from the downward wedge. Really hoping for a strong week here for crypto. Although if Bitcoin does start to dip down and create the right shoulder here on this inverse head and shoulders, then that could be a bit of it could weigh on the rest of the coins for the week. So we have to keep an eye on that one. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this type of content or you want to see some TA on some different coins, then please don't forget to hit the like button below and comment which coin you want to see me break down. And I will see you in the next one.